It is, I am live. Here we go. Okay. I saw somebody post online about this study that Zillow did, and I'm just going to pull it up on the screen really fast and show you what it says. It says this: nearly 87% of DFW homes sold lost, or DFW homes lost value this year. It says a Zillow study. And right off the bat, I'm thinking this study is total trash, and I want to dissect it right now because I see people freaking out about this, and then I see people saying, well, doesn't that mean that our property taxes should go down? And so anytime you see a study like this, you've got to really pay attention. A lot of times they are using different types of numbers to try and make something sensational. And so I just want to dive in and look at exactly what it's saying and show you why this is not as scary or as true as it looks. I would say it's very misleading. All right. So nearly 87% of DFW homes lost value this year. Right now, I'm going to give you credit right off the bat that it's talking about DFW homes. That's usually one of the main areas that they toy with. Is they'll take national numbers and make it look like it applies to us locally, and then that really screws it up. So here it says, according to Zillow, 53% of U.S. homes lost value. Okay, so here's what they're doing. In this stat, they're saying that U.S. homes lost value over the last year. So right off the bat, you can just take that with a grain of salt. And so as you can see already within the first couple of lines here, we've got two different claims. We've got one claim that says 87% of DFW homes lost value this year. And then the next line, it's talking about U.S. homes, and the numbers are completely different. So you just got to pay attention to it. It's sneaky stuff, and it's just designed to get clicks. So let's scroll down and dissect it a little bit further. And then it says an increasing number of homes are selling for less than their purchase price. Okay, it says an increasing number of homes. It's saying that the trend line has been going up, okay, an increasing number, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the majority of homes are selling for less than their previous value. It's just saying an increasing trend. Okay. So it's tricky. It's tricky. And it just makes me want to pull my hair out because then people are calling me asking questions about this. I'm like, it's trash. Let's go through it. All right. Let's just keep on going here. The value of 53% of U.S. homes dropped last year, making it the fastest decline in value since 2012. And so right here, I'm wondering, okay, what does this mean over what period of time? We've already talked about this fact that's talking about U.S. homes. So that may not necessarily relate to us in DFW, but still it's saying it's the fastest decline since 2012. So I'm thinking, okay, the value has dropped. It says last year, but compared to when? Now, the next line does talk about something different, but we're just switching back and forth from one set of numbers to another. So it says the decline, which was measured between October 2024 and October 2025, is even steeper in Dallas, according to the study. The decline is measured by the home's Zestimate, which is determined by an algorithm that combines public records, user-submitted data, and comparable home sales. Now, right, so now we've injected a completely different variable into the whole thing. It's like, what are we looking at here? Are we looking at sales numbers? Or are we looking at what? And it says we're looking at Zestimates. Okay, so if we're looking at Zestimates, and then hats off to them, it goes into trying to define how a Zestimate is determined. It's determined by an algorithm that combines public records and user-submitted data. So I can tell you right now, in Texas is a non-disclosure state, and what that means is there's no law on the books that gives the government the authority to force us to reveal what we bought our houses for. So so they can't get this from public records. The only records they can get it from are private records, and those private records are the Board of Realtors MLS system. And in Texas, it's NETRIS. It's this system right here. This is NTREIS. It stands for North Texas Real Estate Information Systems. You have to be a licensed realtor to be able to get this. In fact, oddly enough, today, as a matter of fact, I saw some court ruling where it may change some different requirements involving MLS, but as of today, this is what it's talking about. So they're not getting information from the source. They're getting it from algorithms. And I just want to talk about the accuracy of Zestimates. So right here, the former CEO of Zillow, his name is Spencer Raskoff. He stated that the Zestimate is not an accurate appraisal and should not be used as a starting point or a final valuation. He famously had a significant discrepancy in his own home sale, which sold for 40% less than the Zestimate. So the CEO of Zillow wasn't even able to use Zillow's numbers reliably. Okay. So hopefully they've come a long way since this issue, but I'm just saying the accuracy of a Zestimate is in question. Okay. So let's go back here to this news article and come through here a little bit more. Let's see here. Despite declining home values, it's rare for a home to sell for less than its previous price. All right. Look, I can keep going through here. I'm running out of time. Let's just go to the source of information. First of all, we can look at their actual study. I found a link to it, and some of these numbers look really, really crazy. But instead of pouring into this flawed data and trying to debunk it, how about I just take a second and show you what the truth is? So the truth is this. This is the MLS system, and this is covering the entire MLS. I'm looking at median sales prices, and you can see this trend line is just up and down like crazy. This little point right here signifies January 1st of 2025. And you can see if all we did was focus on June to present day, then that is a steep decline. And it looks really crazy and really scary. That's this whole thing from, you can see this whole graph starts from January 2024 and goes to present day. Well, all we have to do is start zooming out and we get a wildly different picture. Okay. So one thing that I saw in this screwed up report talked about how home prices have fallen from its peak. Well, the peak happened in 2022 right here. So in the peak year that it's talking about, home prices have decreased significantly, but all of that, the major decrease happened all in 2022. Home prices went up 13% and then they fell 11%. So even in this year where home prices fell 11%, you would have to ignore the fact that they went up 13% in order to fall 11%. So the year over year net was still up a few percent here. Okay, let's just keep zooming out because I think that that's where we start to get a much more honest picture about what the trend line really looks like. If you go out to 10 years, you can see how the median home sales have gone up. And then they peaked right here, just like we saw before. And now they've kind of flattened out. You can see little upticks and downticks. And all of this stuff is just super wacky because of COVID. You had all sorts of issues going on in here. But what I want to do is just go back a little ways and look at some of this. This is almost like a heart rate monitor where you see an up trend and then a down trend and a little up and a little down. And then it goes up and up and down and up and down and up, down, up and down. It has this very consistent cadence. There are a couple little variations in this, but you can see it goes up in spring and in summer, and then it starts to fall in the fall and winter, and then it ticks up in December, and then the bottom is always January. Okay, so this is a very consistent pattern that we see every single year until we got to COVID, and then it started getting really wacky. Well, it was like somebody stepped on a water hose that was on full blast. Okay, so people quit putting their houses on the market, but what happened was buyers were still there gobbling up the inventory, but nobody was putting their house on the market. We couldn't leave our house. So, but some people were still in the midst of a relocation. They didn't have a choice, so they kept buying up the inventory. So then we kind of had a buildup, just like if you had your foot on a water hose, there was a buildup of pressure. And then all of a sudden they let off the pressure and interest rates were still really, really low. And so you saw prices shoot up like this. And then all of a sudden, interest rates went from like 3% up to like 7% overnight. And then we had more problems. It just caused all of this wackiness in this entire time period. Well, now you can see we zoom to closer to present day. And this little cadence right here is mimicking what we saw back in this time frame. So you can see from the peak summer months until winter. Oh, geez, I got to go here in just a second. All right. you can see a pretty sharp fall off, and then it spikes in December and it drops in January. So we're going to see the same exact thing. Here's that peak, and then it's falling off. Well, we're getting towards December. What's going to happen is it looks like it's actually leveling out a bit. I think that we're in a bit of a change in our trajectory here. It's just too early to tell. But one thing that we're definitely going to see is the sales peak in December, and then they're going to fall off again in January. We're going to see that same trend line happen right here towards the end of 2025 on into 2026. So how bad is it? Is the report as it seems? And the answer is no, it's crazy. So if we were to just measure the fallout from this peak time to here, then you can say that home prices have fallen. And how many home prices have fallen? Well, a significant number of them. I would say actually anybody that bought their house in this time period, then you're going to sell your house for less than you purchased it for. It's inevitable. But as long as you purchased your house below this amount, then you're going to see prices increase. And we can do the same exact trickery here if all we do is look at the peak from this year and look at where are home values at today compared to the peak. Well, you could have done that any other year. In fact, it's so predictable. Just like 2 months ago in some of our internal meetings with our realtors here, I just said, hey, just be on the lookout. You're going to see people talk about how the sky is falling and home values are crashing and on. And you just have to plug your ears, and you have to know that this happens every single year. I've seen it. I've been in the business since 2002. Every single year, everybody starts talking about how the real estate market is crashing and all heck is breaking loose, and hold on to your shorts and that sort of thing, because the bottom's falling out of this. Prices are pretty flat. And then if you start looking at month supply of inventory, you can start to see how the trend lines are changing a bit. You can see the October numbers, which are the most recent numbers, is at 5.1. And you look at the month to month change. I don't have time to really go into it right now, but when you look at the month to month change, this it appears to me like there may be a slight difference in the trend. It's still a little bit too early to tell. But you can see all this wackiness caused by COVID. It was just insane. And all of this to say, look, guys, when you see stuff like this, they're playing games with these numbers, looking at different time periods, and they're looking at the difference between national prices versus local prices. And then we can look at the source of the data, these estimates. It's not like what I have here. What I have here is looking at exact home sale data that is disclosed privately. You have to have real estate license to see it, but I'm showing you the same, the actual trends that are based on the real data and not some kind of algorithm that's imagined. Home prices are fairly flat right now. You're going to see it spike in December, drop off in January, and then we're going to probably see it take off again. And we're going to see another about, somewhere from 2 to 6% of price appreciation from the year over year numbers. And there you have it. All right, guys, I got to run, got to pick my daughter up and dance. And so I will pay attention to the comments. If you have any questions, feel free to holler back. Hey, I would love for somebody to tag WFA or some of these news outlets to say, hey, there's a realtor out there saying that your study is bunk and y'all probably ran with it a little bit early or didn't fact check it or whatever. Or he's saying he's got different data to dispel some of this nonsense, because it's just crazy. I see people saying crazy stuff online. Drives me a bit nuts. It's very predictable. But when you look at the actual source of the information, you start to dissect what these claims are. It's not as bad and crazy as it seems. I'll tell you the most interesting number on this whole thing, if I can get to it really, 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 really fast, is, here, this is my favorite thing. It's this one right here. So if you click the WFA article, you can click over to the actual study and then click to the actual graph. And then you can see that 2.8 thousand people have looked at this graph, and that's what they're going for right there. They want the views, they want the clicks. And so there you go. Hopefully that helps put some people's minds at ease. The real estate market in DFW is stable. And if I'm looking at where to invest my money, it's going to be in real estate, because it's a tangible asset. The bottom ain't going to fall out of it like the stock market, where stuff can just be manipulated like crazy. You can't manipulate house prices like you can the funny money that's out there. All right. Appreciate you guys. Have a great day. Over now.